All right, guys, this is Thursday, May 7th, I believe. Kind of getting you ready for Lab 11 here as we go. Of course, this will be shared with you tomorrow, but let's talk about what this is going to do. We're going to be doing more with functions, which you guys at this point should be pretty good at. But we haven't ever done anything with libraries, and this is going to be your first chance to do that. So it's this lab gives you a chance to practice defining and using functions and putting them in a library. Okay, like when we do the math.floor and the math.ceil and the math.random and all of that kind of stuff, that is a library. That's the math library, and all of those browsers have access to it. What we're going to do here is create a library of your own. So, you know, if you worked with a bunch of people and you created a function that you thought everybody could use, you could put it in a library, then they would have access to it without having to create it on their own. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to do that. So you're going to write two functions, one that will compute the dew point and another that computes the wind chill factor. In addition, you will create a library to put these functions in. And again, this is started for you, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that code that Dr. Wolf has already written for you. The library and this weather page that's already started have to be in the same folder, just like when we wanted to pull up a picture and things like that. If it's not in the same folder, you have to put the entire URL in there to find it, and that's going to make things a lot more difficult for you. Okay, so in creating a library, it's just a collection of JavaScript functions that are stored in their own file, a file that's separate from the HTML file, so it's a whole nother file. It's not a lot of code, but it's a separate file. Rather than an HTML extension, a JavaScript library has a JS extension. So you're going to save it as something .js instead of .html. Okay. For this exercise, you will place your functions in your own copy of this file. You can link to it. It's just empty. There's nothing in there, you guys. So you just have to create your own JS file and put two functions in there. Okay. In the same place, you will store the copy of that weather one. Okay. The first step is for you to indicate to your HTML file where to find the library. So you have to, in that script tag, you have to put an SRC attribute in there so that it knows that this library is available, so that it has access to it. I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit here. Okay? But it's really important for you to do that. Okay? So you have to have a separate script element for this. Sometimes students forget this and then it doesn't work. Unlike previous labs, we will not put any JavaScript in the script element. Okay, that's just has an SRC attribute allowing it to know the location of the library. Okay. Add an appropriate script element to your copy of weather.html. This SRC attribute should have a value of weatherfunctions.js. So maybe that's what you want to call your library function. Don't forget the end tag for the script element. Okay, that's a common thing for students to do, is to forget that. For example, look at the source of the course web page. Okay, we're going to look at another source that's in the book that you can follow along here. So the formula for computing the dew point given the temperature and humidity. So again, we're going to be using some parameters here. Temperature and humidity are going to come in, and then you can use those values to calculate dew point. Pretty straightforward. So dew point is the temperature minus 9 times 100 minus the humidity over 25. And you can just put that in exactly the way you see it, okay? Except I don't think the computer handles a 9 with a parenthesis right by it very well. It doesn't assume it's multiplication. So you might need to put a multiplication symbol in between there, okay? The formula for computing the wind chill is a bit more complex. Here's a simplified version that you can use. So 35.74 plus 0.6215 times temperature plus 0.4275 times temperature minus 35.75 times wind raised to the 0.16. So again, if we're going to raise something to a power, we have to use the math.pow function. Okay? So the dew point function, you're going to have that in your library. Develop a JavaScript function named calculateDewPoint that will calculate the dew point using the formula described above. The function must have two parameters because it's expecting temperature and humidity. The function must return the dew point, so you got to have a return command in there like the round money function did the last time we looked at it. Okay. Wind chill function's similar. It's got to be inside your library. It's got to have two parameters, temperature and wind speed, and it's got to return that value, okay? So this is kind of the gist of what you need to do. Now I'm going to go through a little bit of code with you. I'm going to start with metric, okay? This is in your book. So in chapter 9, if you want to follow this, you certainly can, okay? Let's see here. No, we're still in weather, metric. Okay, so if I go into metric here, the first thing that I want you to notice, you've got the script type equals text/JavaScript. We needed that for any function that we're going to create. If we needed to create a function, we needed that script tag in there, and we ended that script tag down here. Now, we've added another script tag in here, text/JavaScript, but the source for this is convert.js, meaning I've given this file access to the convert.js library. And the end script tag is right at the end of that line. That's really important. This is forgotten. That whole line is. If that line's not there, if I call on a function that's in that library, it won't know where to look. Okay, so be careful to put that in there. So this says we're going to create a function, convert to centimeters. Okay, create a variable for inches and centimeters. Inches, we're going to parse float the element that's ID'd as inch box. So down here, there's a text box that somebody can put in the number of inches. We're going to retrieve it. We're going to save it as a number, and we're going to then assign it to the inches variable, okay? Centimeters, we're saying go to this function called inches to centimeters, send it the inches that we got here, and it should return a value and then save it as centimeters. Well, as you're looking through here, there is no inches to centimeters function in this file. So it must be somewhere else. That's why we included this convert.js library. So I'm looking for an inches to centimeters function. Here's convert.js. The only thing in that function is in this library is a couple of functions. One's called inches to centimeters. It's expecting one parameter, inches, and it's calculating the inches. Created a variable for that, inches times 2.54. It's returning that value, getting saved back. Or we have centimeters to inches if we want that as well. So this isn't a separate file altogether. It's saved as a file.js. And right here I'm calling it. I'm saying go to inches to centimeters, which was in that convert function or library. Send it inches, and it's going to return a number. I'm going to save that to centimeters over here. Okay? And then I can do my output, right? Inner HTML. This is blank centimeters. No problem. So this is utilizing it. So the two big things that you guys need to know. You are going to need to add the script tag that has the name of, what did he call them? Weatherfunctions.js. Okay, make sure that you call it that. And then in this convert or in the weatherfunctions.js function you have, you're going to have two separate functions, one for calculating the dew point and one for calculating the wind chill. Okay, so let's take a look at your weather function. First of all, there's one script tag here, which is allowing us to write this function inside of this, this file here. But there's not a separate script tag for the library that you're going to create. So you're going to need to add a script tag to this. Okay? Even though it says do not change anything below this point, you do need to add a script tag or this isn't going to work. Okay? You could add it up above that line if you want, if it makes you feel better, so you're not breaking any rules. Okay? Now, this particular function just says update dew point. Okay, fair enough. It retrieves the temperature from the temp box, which of course is going to be a text box later on, and then parse floats it. It retrieves the humidity and parse floats it. And then when it calculates the dew point, it says go to calculate dew point, send it temp and humidity. That's going to be a function that you've created in that separate library. Okay, so I don't have the code for that because that's code you need to write, but the function needs to be called calculate dew point so that it matches it, right? It's sending two parameters, so in parentheses it has to have two parameters, and then it's going to use them in the formula that you saw at the beginning of the lecture to then actually calculate the dew point, okay? And then it fixes it to 0 places, and then sends the information out, okay? And then there's a separate function here that updates the wind chill, that retrieves the temperature and the wind from a text box. And then it calls the calculate wind chill function, which is the second function that's in the library that you created, okay? And that is expecting two parameters as well, temp and wind speed. You should then take those two parameters, calculate the wind chill based upon the formula you were given at the beginning of the lecture, and it will spit back the result and save it as wind chill, and then send an output right here. So please guys, watch the video here. I guess if you're listening to this, you've watched the video, but and then ask me questions if you do have them, okay? I'll have some office hours during the lab tomorrow, so if you have questions, we can entertain those tomorrow. But that's all I've got today. If you have questions, please let me know. Thank you.